Hello, hackers. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good night. Depends on what time of the day it is and whatever part of the world you're in. Thank you for joining me here. My name is Robbie. I'm from Major League Hacking. We're going to be building a class scheduler. And what that means is we'll be hooking up to the Google Calendar API, working through the authentication workflow and all of that. And then we might even do some React, some front-end stuff as well to try and display that nicely on a web page. So the goal here is so that you can add events to your calendar and then display it in a friendly format for your mobile, and hopefully gain some good front-end skills as well as some API skills. Now, before we jump into the tech stuff, we need to go and do a check-in. So we head to hackpack/March challenges, then hackpack/hack with Robbie. I'm going to screen share as well so we can see what's going along. Give me a second while I fire that one up here. Share screen. I've got 3 screens. I'm hoping it's the right one. Let's have a look. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to head first to hackp.ac/March challenges. You're going to need to log in with a My MLH account. If you haven't already got one, please go ahead and create one. And then make sure you click on register and make sure you check in as well. If it doesn't say you are checked in, you've not done this correctly. This is really important because it helps us track how many people are actually coming to these events. Once you've done that one, you're going to head over to hackp.ac/hack with Robbie. And this will bring you to the class scheduler one. So that's for this specific session. Make sure you're signed in. Go ahead and click on register and check in. And it says you are checked in. That's how we know we've done this correctly. We are off to a strong start. Now, just to give you a little bit more context, we heard from lots of you that you really enjoyed the technical live streams that we ran during Local Hack Day Build back in January, I think it was. They were super popular. And so we're experimenting running one every day throughout the whole month of March. And possibly even for Local Hack Day Share as well. So that's our plan. We really want your feedback on these. If you enjoy them, tell us you enjoy them. If you think we could improve them, please tell us that as well, because we really want to make sure these are excellent sessions for you. Let's see. Someone posted a comment. Hi, Robbie. Hello. Now, let's go ahead and jump into some more technical stuff. My goal is actually to build out my goal here is to use the existing code sample from the Google Calendar API documentation and then build up from there. So I've actually got a link which I'm going to grab from my notes here, which is going to be a good place for us to start. Okay. So you're going to want to head to console.developers.google.com. Let me put that link in the chat here as well, just for everybody who's following along, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And actually, I'm using containers in Firefox, which is fantastic when you've got millions of different accounts like me. So you head to that link, and it's going to bring up the Google Cloud Platform dashboard. And everything that we're doing is free. You're not going to be asked for credit card information or anything like that today. It's going to load up this page, and we need to create a project. So if you head up the top left, and you go New Project. I have 21 projects remaining in my quota. The good thing is I only need one. So let's go ahead and call it MLH Class Scheduler. Now, we don't need an organization, so we'll just create that project. That's going to take a minute to create here. And this project is important because we need to kind of create API keys and stuff like that. And they need to be tied to a project within the Google Cloud Platform. That's how that works. So let's go ahead and just switch to that project we just made, the MLH Class Scheduler. Okay, and we're seeing there's no data available, somewhat unsurprisingly, because we've literally just made this thing. Now, our instructions are, I'm actually going to bring up as well the tutorial that we're going to be following. So that link is this one. Let me put that one in the chat as well. So we're going to loosely follow this quick start guide for the Google Calendar API. Step 1, we're kind of skipping, we're doing that manually. So we're going to jump back to our Google Cloud Platform console. We're going to head down to, I think it's credentials. Wait for this one to load. Perfect. Okay, so once we've got our credentials, we need to firstly create an API key. That's going to invite us to create an API key. I've got this key. I'm going to make a note of that. Where should we do it? let's do it in VS Code. Just put it here for now. Key, okay. Nice and easy. And then we're going to go to create an OAuth client ID. And before we do that, it's actually going to prompt us to configure the consent screen. So this is when you log in with your Google account, like it says, do you want to grant access to this application? We have to set up what that looks like. So we'll hit configure consent screen. We're going for external, which is available to any test user with a Google account. Your app will start in testing mode and will only be available to users you add to the list of test users. So you can't even access my application because you don't have my, I won't add you to the list. So I'm not worried about sharing my API key. We'll go ahead and click on create for internal app name. Let's call it MLH class scheduler. I'm using a burner email account. So that's this one here, Robbie burner 800. Logo, sadly don't have one. Domain, we're going to skip this. Developer contact information, again, robbieburner800@gmail.com. Save and continue. Scopes. Okay, so this is an important bit because this is where we define what our app, which is what we're going to build, what that has access to in the Google account. Obviously, you don't want every app you add, you grant access to your Google account to be able to access every single bit of data on your Google account. It's kind of minimum permissions instead. So we need to go ahead and select the scopes we want. So if we click on add or remove scopes, there's a bunch of options here. I'm just going to search for calendar. Wow, that didn't work. Why can I not find the calendar one? Scopes, add or remove scopes. Off to a strong start, right? We've got BigQuery, Cloud Platform. Oh, I know the issue here is we haven't actually enabled Google Calendar for this this project. Let's jump back to good question. Let's try dashboard. Enable APIs and services. Search for calendar. Google Calendar API. Enable. So you have to enable the API for a particular project, right? There's a lot of kind of organization and management overhead when you're trying to do this stuff. That's just the way the Google Cloud Platform and indeed most things like this are set up. So we've enabled the Google Calendar API. Let's go back to, can we go back to the main dashboard? Let's just click this one again. There we go. Dashboard. Where's it all gone? Why is the navigation menu so confusing? APIs and services. Credentials. That's where we were. Here we go. So we've got our API key. We'll go to create credentials, go to OAuth client ID. So we need to go back and finish our consent screen. Sorry, I know I'm jumping around a bit here. Essentially, before we go and start the consent screen, you need to go and enable the Google Calendar API for your project. And you can just do that in the dashboard and then like add. So we go to dashboard. And then when it loads in, we go to enable APIs and services, go and enable the calendar API, then come back, then go to credentials, start the workflow. It's going to take you to invite you to create your OAuth consent screen. Let's go back and edit this, resume that workflow. Okay, so we got to this bit, second page, we're on the scopes. So now, hopefully, as I go through this list, we will see Google Calendar API, which is exactly what I was looking for. So we're going to go for calendar.read only. So see and download any calendar you can access using your Google Calendar. So you can see it, but you can't edit it. You can't add stuff to it, can't delete it. It's read only. So we'll go with that. Then update. So now we've added that scope. Save and continue. Test users. So you can add 100 users when your app is in testing status. But I'm just going to go ahead and add only me to it. So robbieburner800@gmail.com. Go ahead and click on add here. And then we'll go to save and continue. And this means that only I am allowed to authenticate to this application. No one else can if they manage to get hold of my code. So this is all good. Got our scopes good. Got our test users good. Just a question there. There are a couple of read-only calendar options. That's a good question. Let's go and have another look. Just make sure we got the right one. So we're on add or remove scopes. If I search for calendar, maybe it'll actually work this time. Yeah. So you've got these two options, which is for read-only. You've got ACLS read-only, which is for seeing the sharing permissions of calendars you own. And then there's this one, which is just read-only, which is for actually accessing the calendars. So you want the second one, which is just calendar.read-only. If you go for the ACLS one, that's for getting access to seeing the sharing permissions for your calendar rather than the actual content of the calendar. Hope that makes sense. So we selected the right one, which is good. Let's just go ahead, hit update, go back to the summary. Good. Back to dashboard. Brilliant. I'm just going to grab a quick drink of water. The water breaks are pretty good because I think hopefully they give you a chance to catch up as well. And the other pro tip actually in life, if you're ever doing like public speaking or a Q&A or something like that, and you're not sure what you need to say, then stop, take a sip of water, and it gives you a minute just to collect your thoughts. Pro tip. Brilliant. So let me check back on my notes here. We've set up the project. We set up the API key. Now we need to go and set up the OAuth client IDs as well. So back on that credentials screen, we'll hit create credentials, go for OAuth client ID. Our application type is a web application. Is that right? Yep, let's try that. The name is going to be, the name is only used to identify the client in the console. Again, we'll just call it MLH class scheduler web app. And then our origins, so we need to add localhost 8000, and we'll look into why that's important in a little bit. So make sure you add that URI, hit create. Brilliant. So we've got a client ID and we've got a secret, which can always be accessed from credentials, which is awesome. Let's just go ahead and make sure we save those as well. So we've got OAuth client ID. ID is here, and then OAuth client secret is this one. Perfect. Okay, so we set up our API key. We set up our OAuth client ID, so we've got the ID and the secret. That's awesome. I guess the next step is to actually start getting hands-on with some code. This is really exciting. I love doing the code stuff. So let's set up a GitHub repository, which is the best way to start doing any code. Right from the beginning, set up a repository. So I'm on my GitHub profile. I'm going to hit new repository. Let's go ahead and call it MLH class scheduler. And we'll say a simple class scheduler using the Google Calendar API. And in the description, if I ever follow a tutorial or a session or something like that, I always like to include the URL of the guide that I followed. So I'm actually going to grab the URL for this this live stream session and just put following there. Or in my case, I'll put demonstrated at. You may want to put following. Public is totally cool. Let's add a README. Let's add a, do we need to get a NOR file? Nah, leave that. Create repository, main branch is main. Another question here, what URLs were we supposed to enter? So back in this interface, when you're setting up the client, the OAuth client ID, you need to add authorized JavaScript origins. So I've just put localhost 8000. And that's because we'll be running our application on localhost 8000. So then that referrer that origin is allowed to actually access the application here, the MLH class scheduler. I hope that answers your question. Okie dokie. So we've made a repository, which is super exciting. Got an initial commit. Let's go ahead and, well, firstly, I'm going to update this this README And I'm going to give this a proper name. We'll call it MLH plus scheduler a bit more nicely. And we'll say simple static web page for now. That is based on the URL. This one, I'll share this URL in a second as well. This tutorial. Perfect. Update README is fine. I'm happy to commit directly to main, commit changes. Brilliant. Okay, so I've got a repository set up. I've got my README file. I'm good to go. Excited to get hands-on with some code. Let's go ahead and clone this repository. So we'll clone via SSH. I'm going to do git clone, then that. Nice. So that's cloned locally. We'll cd into MLH class scheduler. Do let me know if this is too small. I think it should be visible on stream. But if it's, I'm running at 1080p, so if it's too small, I will increase the font size. Nothing more exciting than a repository. Yeah, I know. I love setting up a good repository. That's why I've got like 65 on my profile. But honestly, most of them are junk. I've seen some people with I saw someone with 5,500 repositories. And that stuff was wild. Like, I wasn't even fully convinced that they were legit repositories. I got the impression they'd basically run some script that was just churning out repository after repository after repository. No idea why. That was definitely a weird one. So we've got our repository, we've cloned it locally. Let's head to the actual tutorial we're going to be using. I'm going to put this link in the chat again. I can't remember if I already have, but there it is for your benefit. So we've done step 1, which is turning on the Google Calendar API. That's the bit that actually threw me. We've already made a project, which is the reason I didn't do it through this interface. Then we enabled the Google Calendar API. Then we've made an OAuth client ID, and we've got an API key. So we've got that all here in VS Code. And the next step is to set up the sample. So we've made our repository. I guess we can open this now in VS Code. So if I open VS Code, go to dev. Oh, way too much stuff in here. MLH class scheduler, open that one up. Yes, let's definitely save that file as well. I'm going to save it in the same place. MLH class scheduler. We'll just call it Google API credentials. You see that capitalized to Google .txt. Nice. Now, I'm going to, you can see now in the terminal that it's showing that I've got a new file. I'm actually going to ignore this file. So I'm going to create a new file in VS Code called .gitignore. In that file, I'm going to put Google API credentials.txt, save it, and then what this does, if I do a nice git status, is it's no longer showing the API credentials file as needing to be committed. It is showing this gitignore file, so if I actually do a git diff, if I do a git add, git diff, whatever. The only change that's going to be committed is this new gitignore file. So let's commit that. We'll say ignore local credentials file. Perfect. And then a git push. Head back to GitHub. We will now see 3 commits. Latest commit was now, and there it is, our gitignore file. So that's excellent. Now let's actually get into the code. I'm going to right click in here again. I'm going to go new file. I'm going to go index.html. And the good news is Google's written all the hard work for us. So I'm going to copy this code sample, paste it here into VS Code. We're off to a good start, but what we need to do, if we read through all of this, is replace the placeholder your client ID in the copied code with the client ID and your API key. So let's go scroll up here. We've got client ID. So that's where we go back to our API credentials file. That's why it's important that we got this. So we've got our OAuth client ID. Put that in this string here. Good. And then the other one, it wants us to be just the API key. So let's go and grab that API key. Perfect. So we've added our client ID, added our API key. If you're looking at this and you're seeing the use of var everywhere and it's making you upset, don't worry, we're going to go through and clean this all up. So that's good. Now that this is done. Let's just run it, and then if it works, I'll talk you through how it works. I'm using Python 3, like every good person, rather than Python 2. So I'm going to go ahead, type in Python 3-m http.server 8000. And what this will do is it will start a local static server, local server on port 8000, just serving these files statically. So if I run that, and then I open localhost 8000, this is the code sample that we grabbed, and that's just the index.html file. And so we can see it actually starts with Google Calendar API Quick Start. There's an authorize button and a sign up button, blah, blah, blah. Let's go ahead and click on authorize here. And this brings up this exciting pop-up. Choose an account to continue to MLH class scheduler. You remember this is the name that we set earlier. I'm going to choose my burner account. And now it's saying Google hasn't verified this app. You've been given access to an app that's currently being tested. That's what we did earlier when we added my email address to the list of test users. It says you should only continue if you know the developer that invited you. The good news is the developer is me, and I did invite myself. So I'm going to click on continue here. Grant permission, and here's the permission that we set earlier. So you remember when we set up those scopes, we set up calendar read-only, and that's this one. See and download any calendar you can access using your Google Calendar. And you can expand it, and you see it there, and it's basically this just in more detail. We'll allow that. Takes us to the confirmation screen. So my email address is my burner one. We're allowing the MLH class scheduler app to associate you with your personal info, see your personal info, view your email address. And this is all the stuff that happens by default. And then this is that scope that we added. See and download any calendar you can access using your Google Calendar. Make sure you trust it. And normally you just power through these screens, right, when you're trying to sign into something. But it's nice to read this and actually understand how developers build it and how it's relevant to you when you're building your own applications like this one. Let's go and allow. Nice. We've got upcoming events. No upcoming events found. That's okay. This is basically positive because it shows it has probably managed to access our calendar. If I open a new tab and I go to calendar.google.com, you can see I was testing this earlier. Let's put in another event starting at 9 p.m. I'm going to call this, what should we call it? Virtual COVID party. From 9 till 10 is fine. Also, has anyone noticed how this button's been getting bigger and bigger over time? Like, add Google Meet video conferencing is now comically large on the page. Let's save that. Got that here. Now, if I reload, just Command R, look at that. Upcoming events, virtual COVID party. And then we've got the date and timestamp in ISO 8601 format. But this is a really strong start. This means we can communicate with the API and we can get the data we need and actually do stuff with it. If I go ahead and add another event here, let's say I've got a meeting with, I don't know, my boss at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Let's say it starts at 9:15. Save that. Come back here and reload. There it is. I've got a meeting with boss. So this is awesome to see it working. And we really didn't have to do much there to get that working either. We made a Google Cloud Platform project, enabled the Google Calendar API, got OAuth credentials and an API key, and then basically ran this file and put our API key in. So I guess the next step is to dig a bit deeper into what's going on here. So let me make this one, tell you what, let's just make it full screen. So it's just a simple HTML file. There's no external JavaScript or really any other assets being pulled in, apart from, crucially, the script at the bottom. So we're doing just before our closing body tag, we're importing the Google API's script, basically. And if we have a look at that, we're going to see it's this, right? That's doing all the behind the scenes stuff. Now, let's walk through this one by one. So we're starting off with our body. We've got the paragraph at the top, which was exactly what we saw here, Google Calendar API Quick Start. And then we've got the buttons for initiating the auth sequence and signing out. Yeah, so I can actually click sign out here. And then if I refresh, it can't access them, right? So I'm authorized to sign out. We've got content, which is this just general kind of Let me auth back in here. It's just this block at the bottom where we can write stuff. And then the actual code. So we've got a JavaScript. We set our client ID and our API key. We set array of whatever this is. And the scopes as well. Again, this is the scopes we're requesting from the client side, from this application side. And then in the Cloud Platform console, we configure the scopes that basically they're allowed to have. So we request these scopes, and on the other side, there's a list of scopes that are allowed. We find our buttons. We do some loading stuff to load the Google API. Initialize it with our API key, our client ID, and that kind of stuff. Essentially, what do we got here? Get auth instance that handle the initial sign-in. There's some stuff here that basically Google's written the hard work for you in terms of writing the handling the sign-in with the OAuth. This does some stuff to make the buttons show once we've signed in. Sign in the user upon button click. Handle auth click. Fine. That's all standard stuff. Append pre is a very rudimentary write function, which just writes extra stuff here. I actually reckon if I fire up the console here, and we ignore the numerous warnings we're getting, these functions, because of how they're defined, they're all defined globally. So I can actually go append pre, and you see already it's prompting me about this function. So I can go append pre hello world. Now it's written hello world on the bottom as well. And if we see what that looks like in the viewer, we've literally got each of these lines hello world. So we're just appending the message in a new line character. And because it's a pre, it means pre-formatted. So the white space and stuff is actually going to actually matter. Then we got list upcoming events. This is one of the key functions, really. Assuming we've already got access to our calendar and stuff, our Google account, then we go access the calendar library, get the events, list the events for our primary calendar. New date.toString. So new date will create a date object based on exactly now, the current time. So this is saying get everything from now onwards. Don't show deleted events. Yeah, show single events. Maximum results 10. So it's only going to grab the next 10 events, as it says here, rather than everything to the end of time. And then order by start time. Once we've got that response, we are going to basically go through them, loop through them. If we've got some events, print it with the start date and start time and stuff like that. If there's no events, then no upcoming events found. Simple. I think that's reasonable. Now, because this works, we should do like what every good developer does, go back to our terminal, and we're going to do a git status. Got our index.html file, so I'm going to add that with a git add dot. Follow that one up with an exciting git commit -m. We'll call this basic index.html to list events from calendar. And we'll push that one up as well. Exciting. I need another sip of water. Just give us a sec. Perfect. Good to go. Had some more water. Let's jump in and clean up this code. So we're starting off with a paragraph. We've got some buttons. I'm happy to leave all that as is. I definitely want to change these vars to const because it is 2021, not 2011. So we'll go with const for all of these. And yes, I could do a global find and replace, but generally I try to avoid those. I'd much rather kind of manually see what I'm changing. You never know if the word var is included in something else. Like, say you write the word variable somewhere. So they're all const. I'm going to leave these as functions. Fine. Well, a bunch of stuff here. And then, okay, what's going on with this? If events.length is greater than 0, then for I equals 0, I is less than events.length. Events I. Tell you what we'll do, actually. We can do a simple... Oh, I missed one there. You see it. Let's go ahead and do a console.log events. And If we reload, head over to our console. Yeah, the events is this array, you see? And it's an object, calendar event. There's a bunch of stuff that Google gives us. We only really care about, what do we care about? The summary, which is the title. And start is an object with date time. So it's got a date, a string here with just the date in it. I imagine if it was an all-day event, it would be slightly different, but we're probably not going to cover all-day events in this session. Just start with the simple stuff. Okay, if events.length, rather than doing this old-fashioned for loop, let's just say .events.for each event const when equals event.start.datetime. We'll do a shorthand, I don't remember what it's called, like a shorthand if operator, something like that. Event.start.date. This is a little JavaScript trick that says set the variable when to event.start.datetime, but if datetime for some reason is falsy, i.e. it's undefined or something like that, then fall back to event.start.date. It's nice, I like it. And it saves this kind of 4-line block. And the second thing we do for each event is we do an append pre. Let's do some template strings. So we'll start with event.summary, which is the event title, space, open parenthesis, and then we're doing when, close parenthesis, close template string. Is that semicolon? Wow, what a mouthful. And then we could probably comment out this block. Save, go back here and reload. And something's gone horribly wrong. Fantastic. Missing bracket after argument list, line 135. I have got overexcited. There we go. I missed out a line with my braces. It's always the way. Nice. Look at this working. So we are adding our events in a slightly more modern way. Let's actually just go ahead and delete this old if block. We can delete the console log as well because we don't really want to leave those in our code. Okay. Item, we'll do a git status again. Nice, just that file's changed. So let's do a git add, git commit, clean up code, and use modern JavaScript. Git push. Okay. I guess the next step for us is to make this a bit nicer than it currently is. It's absolutely fantastic that we've already got to this point. Now let's make it so it actually looks like a calendar, I think, rather than just a list. And we're going to do this using React. Now, because this is just a live stream and we're going to do it kind of quickly, I'm going to use the slightly less recommended option, which is essentially just including React and Babel as a bundle on the page, and the browser does all of that stuff rather than using a preprocessor or a bundler or something. But I think that's totally justified for what we're trying to do here. So we're going to go ahead and fire up, let's search for React. Go to our React documentation, get started, add React to a website. And then we want these 2 bits. So we'll grab these 2 scripts. This is using unpackage. Unpackage is great because essentially rather than having to do like an npm install React, you can include these scripts. And this actually is, if we go to this here, this actually is like the code for React. And it mirrors all the stuff on npm and things like that. So let's copy those. We'll stick them in our head. Let's put them here. Just to clean this up a little bit, we'll put load React. But it's not just React we need, because I would also like to be able to write JSX. So rather than doing this weird kind of syntax which basically no one uses, I will actually go and use the JSX version. Which is like this, right? So where you're writing this kind of hybrid HTML stuff in your JavaScript. And it says here, the quickest way to try it is to add this script tag to your page. So let's grab that one as well. We'll put that one underneath those. And we'll go load Babel. Perfect. saying now you can use JSX in any script tag by adding text type equals text / Babel. So what we can do then is rather than saying text / JavaScript, we can say text / Babel here. Go back to our application, and just to quickly check if I reload, does it still work? Yes, nice. So Babel is looking at this, it's going still fine. We don't need to do anything to it really. There's no JSX in there, so it's just parsing it as normal JavaScript. Git status, git add, git commit -m, include React, DOM, and Babel on web page. And git push. Looking good. Let's start some proper front end work now then. I want to find the content. So I'm going to, rather than having a pre here, I'm just going to go with the standard. We'll say div id equals. Some people say root for React apps. Personally, I quite like mount point. That's the point at which you're mounting your application onto the web page. And then all of our React stuff is essentially replacing this append pre function. So the minute append pre will just, grab that pre block and then write some text in it. Let's comment that whole thing out for now, and we'll delete it in a bit. And then in our events block, comment that one, comment that, and comment this one as well. I'm going to make a separate function. Do I want a separate function? No, let's actually do it in here. We'll go ahead and we'll say, rather than in the for loop, we'll say React DOM.render. And I'm going to render div, just an empty div for now, and we'll put that at document.getElement by id out point. And just to make sure that this really does work, I'm going to put a paragraph in here with hello world. Now, as we do this, it's probably going to break our events, but that's fine. We just want to check that we can actually use React on the page. If we can, brilliant. This is being added by React once the page loads. You can see that inside our div, inside our mount point, we're rendering this div with a paragraph in it. And if you've got the React dev tools installed, which I've got here, then you can head over to components and reload maybe. Normally that would work. What's this error we're getting? It's just the favicon. I'm not too worried about the favicon. Let's go and add some more code to it. So rather than just hello world, I think we can actually kick off with something a bit more advanced. And of course, if we're doing this really properly, we do a bunch of like separate components and things. I'm going to be a little bit cheeky and just write it all in as pretty standard HTML. So rendering this div, let me put that here. And I'm going to put this one here as well, just to kind of completely separate these. I'm also going to do I can never find it in VS Code, formatting the file. Here we go, format document. Wow, that was a big change. I fixed a bunch of white space stuff. So within our kind of wrapper div, I'm going to add another div. We'll call this our scheduler, kind of like a calendar, I guess. But close that div out. VS Code is great, right? Because it's picking up the fact that this is JSX within normal JavaScript in an index.html file, right? Big fan of that stuff. Within our scheduler, and I need to write a bunch of styles as well for this stuff. Let's start off with 7 divs, right, for each day of the week, because I'm planning to build out a week view. So I'll go div, let's say class equals day col, being short for column. This one's Monday. Div, okay, then we'll do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If we can change all these, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and this is just because it's super useful to be able to identify these. Friday, Saturday, I forgot the days of the week for a second there, Sunday. Okay, so we've got an ID and we've got a class on these. If I reload, again, it's just going to be blank because, it's just divs with nothing in. But if we, sorry, yeah, this needs to be class name because we are using JSX and not normal JavaScript. Pretty certain there's a way in VS Code to do like a multi-cursor thing as well. I'm more of a WebStorm kind of person, to be honest. Okay, and grab and just look at this location. Within our body, we've got our mount point, we've got the wrapper div. Within that div, we've got our scheduler. Within that, we've got, there we go, our 7 divs, which are all kind of, showing and doing nothing. Let's go and click on scheduler. We're going to add some styles to it. We'll go display grid. A grid is a very, very powerful CSS tool. If you've not used it before, it's worth taking the time to read. There's an excellent guide by CSS Tricks. It's really, really good. It teaches you, maybe I should get the poster, it teaches you all about all the different grid stuff. And yeah, there's a lot of options, but once you get the core fundamentals, like you can do all sorts of great stuff with grid. Because we're building a grid, right? We're doing 7 columns across and some number of rows down. So we put a grid on it. Let's go ahead and add some interesting things as well in terms of dimensions. Let's just make sure it's 100% width. So that's the width of the container. And we're also going to add a height to it. Now, we could go down the full-on responsive route, but that's more complicated. So for now, let's just put a height of, say, 800 pixels on it. And if I just put background red. Background red. There you go. You can see that. I would like it to actually not run over the bottom. I'll just try and drag this down. Okay, that's fine. Obviously, we're not going to keep it as red, but we're off to a good start. So we're rendering our scheduler. I need to add some styles in here. So this is going to be style type equals just bog standard CSS, nothing overcomplicated. And we'll start styling that. So that was our scheduler. We set display grid. Width was 100%. Height we said was 750 pixels. Let's put background red for now. I think I've ever typed the word background right first time. We'll put background red for now while we're developing, and then easily remove that later when we want to make it look actually good. Okay, what next? What next? Columns and stuff? Actually, I'll tell you what I do want to do. Is it always annoys me how web pages don't set their box sizing to, I'll show you what I mean. Box sizing, border box. So by default with CSS, you can define the width of an element. Let's say you say a box is 100 pixels. And then if you add a 2-pixel border to it, that will actually increase the size of the box. So it's 100 pixels plus the 2 pixels on this side and the 2 pixels on this side, which is a bit of a weird one. Because I would always rather say if I'm setting the box to 100 pixels, it should be 100 pixels overall. So box sizing border box is an excellent CSS rule that basically will do exactly that. It means those borders will come into the box and will fit exactly within that width, rather than being an extension of the box and increasing the width. If I just reload this page, that's good. And you can see it's being rendered by React, right? Because it's appears after the page is loaded. And you can see it's also kind of slow because of how we're doing it with all this unpackaged stuff. Slow but steady progress. What comes next? We've built this. Is that Ashbeck? Yeah, I don't know if you can see it. It's Tesco Ashbeck water. Big fan. Tesco Ashbeck is actually brought from, you see at the bottom, it says like naturally filtered through ancient rocks in the Eden Valley. The Eden Valley is where I grew up. So this water is actually from very close to home to me. I live in London now, but at the time, that's it's like drinking water from home. It's awesome. But we're getting distracted. Sparkling. You like sparkling water? Nah, dude. That's not cool. That's not good. Sparkling water is grim. Columns is what we were up to, right? So we've done a scheduler. Let's add a rule for our day calls. So firstly, I'm going to say, what's the best way to do this? If we do border left, 2 pixels solid yellow on each of these, then okay, I need to make this. Yellow is not a good choice for color. Let's do like a blue, or rather than 2 pixels, let's do 10 pixels. So our divs are all doing this at the minute because we haven't defined anything on our grid. So we've set display grid. Now here you'll see why grid's so good. So I can go grid template columns, repeat 7 times, once for every day of the week. We could use auto, but actually going to do 1 FR. And what that will do is make sure they're all the same width. So now I've got these 7 divs, and if I click on grid here, Firefox is great because it has all this wonderful extra stuff. And you can see what I was talking about as well with the border box. So this border is now like inside the div as opposed to outside it. But I've already lost track of what changes we made because Adam is still talking about sparkling water. Yes, that is true. I'd never drink sparkling water by itself, though. Let's head to changes and just see what we did. Oh, yeah, so we set up a styling for our day column. Dot day call, border left. It'll be 10 pixels solid, as I say, blue. And then on our scheduler, we did grid template columns, repeat 7 times, 1 FR. FR, I can't remember what it stands for. It's like a fractional unit or something. If you read that CSS grid guide, it talks you through all of it. It's really excellent. Got this, and now within each column, there are kind of different ways to do this, but I'm thinking what we might want to do is set each of these to be grids as well. What do you think? Or should we? Because I'm picturing where you have an event, right? It's going to appear as a block like this, or a block here, or a long block here, or something like that. Do we make our columns basically grids as well? Or do we control it more strictly than that? You're watching me think live. I think we actually bin off what we've done at the minute. And I think we go for managing the whole thing as the scheduler, be this like a super grid that controls everything, rather than grids within grids. Yeah, I actually prefer that approach. So let's delete what we said about day column. We'll leave the line we added here for the rows, though. Sorry, the columns. Great, same big red box. Now, we've got to define our rows as well. So on our scheduler div, we set the columns. We said there's going to be 7 columns, right? There's nothing in it, so we can't see them. There we go, grid template rows. I think the way we might want to do this is you want to think about how many rows you've got, right? And events can start and end at weird times, like 9:15 or 12:28 or something. I think you have this done into 1 minute increments, don't you? So it's going to be repeat. There's 24 hours in a day, so I can do a calc here. 24 hours in a day times 60 minutes per hour and we want them all to be, we want them all to be exactly the same height. So we'll say 1 FR. I'm just going to turn that one off there. I'm still kind of, figuring this out as we go along. Well, that's what this is about, right? We'll learn together. Calc 24 times 60, 1 FR. Then within our scheduler, let's just say, for example, again, this is outside our for loop, right? Let's say we've got an event in here. I'm going to say div class equals event. And if we close the div as well, contents of the div is, whatever, meeting 9:30 to 10:30. I reckon we could put on the style element. And we've got to do a bit of maths here, right? Using the grid, you can essentially say, for a child element of a parent grid, you can define where on the grid that should appear, how many columns it should span, how many rows it should span, which is super, super useful. It's a bit like merging cells in Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel. So for 9:30, how many minutes down do we want that to be? So we'd say grid column. Actually, rather than writing that here, let's do it in the browser. So render that one in. Something broke. Class. It's not class. It's class name because it's JSX. And the reason we're using JSX for all of this is because we're going to loop through each of these events and essentially map them into here and add them all. The style prop expects a mapping from style properties to values, not a string. Oh, yeah, fine, because I've not written anything in there. Save, reload. Okay, so this is our meeting. Now this div, I'm going to set the grid. First, let's set the column. So what day of the week? Let's pretend this meeting is on a Tuesday. So it's going to start on column 2. And it's going to end at column 2, right? So it's going to span exactly that one column. And then for our rows, 9:30, this is where we have to really get serious with the maths. How many minutes into a day is 9:30, right? Because every row down in our grid is 1 more minute. So it's actually, I wouldn't use calc normally, right? But just for doing it here in the browser, we'll do calc 9.5 hours because it starts at 9:30 times 60. And then slash calc 10.5 times 60 minus 1. I can't remember. Let's just do that for now. Let's turn that off. And then I think what might be best is if we add some styles to it. I'll just add a simple filler, a border, 1 pixel solid, just do white border. And it's got absolutely no border at all. Wait, have I done repeat? Oh, I'm getting completely confused. I'm on the wrong element. Let's try here. We'll go border, 1 pixel, solid white. Okay, so this is starting to look serious. Kind of eyeballing it. That looks like it could be about 9.5 to 10.5. And just to experiment, let's say rather than 10:30, we finish at 2:30 in the afternoon. Yeah, a really long meeting. You can see now this is lining up correctly in the browser. Stuck in an all-day meeting. So this technique is absolutely going to work, which is brilliant. Now we've put meeting 9:30 till 10:30. We don't need this actual text here. What we do need to do when we render these in our for loop is to create a event div and set the row and the column basically. Now, before we jump into that, I think now is probably a good chance for a quick break, just because we've been going pretty hard on this stuff. Let's take, literally 2-3 minutes. Tell you what, I'll put a 5-minute timer on the screen, and then we'll kick off it'll be about 8 o'clock UK time, so I think that's 4 o'clock Eastern time. The clock's just changed. Adam says break equals melon squad plug. You know what? I'm feeling generous. I'm going to leave that one on the screen while I play the video, assuming I can. So let's take a quick break. We'll be back in a few minutes. Hello, everybody. I'm back. We've got more energy. We've got a whole new bottle of Tesco Aspect natural mineral water. Still, of course, not sparkling. We're going to carry on. We're going to crack on with this. Get some more stuff in here. Let's jump right in. I was thinking about this on the 5-minute break. I was thinking we need to actually make this more React-y rather than just writing it all in one big block. So I'm not going to make it too React-y, right? But I am going to jump in. I'm going to make a function called event. And this is going to take some props. Specifically, the props it's going to take is start time, end time, and title, I guess. Let me get rid of that. Okay, now this is some awesome syntax. If you've not seen it before, it's I don't even know what you call it, like deconstruction as in the parameters. Essentially is when we render this event, it will declare these variables based on the props that are passed into event. So event is going to return a parentheses. We'll go div class name equals event div. Okay, and inside the div, we're going to say, we're first going to write the title, then space, and then we want the start time and the end time. I think we can. I need to figure out how to format this. JavaScript date formatting, and I know there's a bunch of good options, but I want something that's lightweight. Can we just do it not using the inbuilt date API? So I just want the time. I think we may have to do this. Ooh. To locale date string, we're close, but okay. Start time and end time. Well, we can definitely pass those as dates. And when we were doing this stuff earlier. So we'll just say for now, actually, you know what? Let's just put start time and time, and we'll figure out the formatting later. Now this is nice because it means here, rather than doing this event, I can actually return a React event. And this is where React is wonderful. I can say title for now is, we're just calling it a meeting. Start time equals 2021. Oh, what's the date? 17th. And let's say it starts at 11 p.m. tonight. I don't even know the syntax. Is it like that? And then end time is going to be basically the same. 3:17 Z. Let's say 23:30. Close that out. If I do a reload, fingers crossed. Okay, we're off to a good start. Oh yeah, thanks, Adam. The ticker does still say coffee break. Fixed. Amazing. That's what you come for, the slow responses. Only 3 minutes, that's not too bad. So we've got this on here, and we're rendering it properly using an event component in React, which is nice. Now we got to get some actual positioning on here. So this is where it starts getting complicated, and we were just doing some of that maths beforehand, weren't we? First, you need to figure out the start time and end time. What format are they? I have a feeling that for each event, are we still, did we not, did I remove the console log events? I think I did. Add that one back. I want to see what the format is of the date of the start time that comes through the Google Calendar API. So if I just grab one of those objects, it was start is a date time. Yeah, and this is just a string. Oh yeah, well, I'm not doing a good. I got this totally wrong. It's a T, and it has a Z at the end, and the seconds as well. T. Okay. Call it a virtual COVID party for that one. So that comes through as a string. Now, I have a feeling that we can just. I literally just want to copy that. I think we can go new date. That. Yeah, and it will actually parse it because this is standard kind of ISO 8601 format. You know what? I'm going to get rid of this doc. It's driving me mad. Done. Gone. Okay, so we've got that date, and then using that date, we can get. Just get. What is it? Get full hour? No. Get hour? No. I have to go back to our reference. I bet we need UTC before it. Get time hours. Man. Get hours. 21. Presumably then get minutes. 0. Like the format is 0, 0. You see, this is why people use date formatting libraries. What's the most common one that people use these days? It used to be Moment.js, but I think that's is that deprecated now? Considering using Moment, there may be better modern alternatives. Luxon. Actually, Day.js. I do really like Day.js. Is there an unpackaged version? That is the question. Probably. Unpackage.com/Day.js. Oh, it's already pre-filled. Even better. Great. Let's load in Day.js. So after Babel, we'll do. Well, after Babel, yeah, whatever. Load Day.js. Again, this is definitely not how you should do this, but for the sake of a demo, without trying to have minimal tooling, I think we're justified. So let's do Day.js like that. It will always grab the latest version, and then I have to remember how to actually use Day.js. Day.js.format. Oh, hang on. Here it is, the unpackaged link. Even better. Day.js.format, but I want to pass a specific time into it. Pause. This web page formatting. That's better. Simply call Day.js with one of the supported input types. Now, because we're doing it with unpackage, we can actually, in the browser, I think Day.js should be yeah. So I can go, what was it, 2021 0317 T233000Z. Okay, and then a format, HHMM. Is that what it's like? 1130, brilliant. And if I do HH, 2330, what does capital M do? 03, bizarre. Let's do that. That's important because now I can go here and I can say, first I can say start equals Day.js. Actually, no, let's do that at a different point. Instead, we can just say start time, assuming that's a Day.js object, and just format it as HHMM. Same for end time, format HHMM. So for our example here, we can just wrap it in the Day.js function, which is what we've just proven to ourselves. Is Day.js. Okay, so reload. Look at that, 23, 23, 30. Now, why are we getting a line break in here? That's what I want to know. Oh, I bet it's because of the size of our page. Meeting. Yeah, it's just being squashed. I reckon if I zoom out, it's fine. Start time, end time. Let's put a hyphen in there, or a dash rather. That makes more sense. And at this point, I think I am actually going to do a commit because we've done a lot of stuff, including, I think, a format. So if I do a git diff, that's going to show the... Ooh. Yeah, like the whole file's changed. Let's just do an add and just commit it blindly. Making progress with adding events to scheduler on page. Push this event on. And the reason we do it as a separate event function is because we can get a bit more serious with the start time and end time and things like that. So our start position, let's say start row. This is where we need that math we did before. So it was, I need the number of the hour. Do you remember that? Do you reckon I can get that out as a... Do I just have to parse it as an int, or can I get it as a number from day.js? Ha! Capital MM is the month. That's why we got 03. Oh, man. I think we just need to... Yeah, let's not overcomplicate this. Let's just say our start row is our start time. Format. I don't want to overcomplicate it. Format it as hours. Just a single hour, so we don't need the leading zero. So format that as an hour, and then we'll parse that as an int. And let's do the same for end row as well. End row with end time. And all I'm going to do is a console log on both of those, just so I can see what we're working with. $11. So 11 is good. Oh, we do need the 23-hour version. I'm getting totally confused here. 23 hours, 24 hours. We'll reload that. 23 and 23, so that's good. So I can then go... we can actually separate this out again. Const start hour equals that. We can go const start min equals parse. Min is in minute. Start time dot format mm. Okay. Let's do the same for our end. So end hour, end min is going to be based on our end time. So start row, right, this is the important bit. So it's a start hour times 60, right? It gives you how many minutes, plus start min. And then the same for the end row. It's going to be end hour times 60 plus end min. And if you know your bidmas, bodmas, bedmas, pedmas, whatever you want to call them, your order of operations, you'll know that the multiplication happens before addition. Let's do that again, and we should see some big numbers for this now. 1380 to 1410, right? So we've got all these rows here as defined by our grid. We're going to have it start at 1380 and go down to 1410. And it makes sense that these are 30 apart because our event is 30 minutes long. Class name equals event, and then we'll go style. Now we'll see if it complains about what we said earlier with the style object in JSX, but we'll give this one a go. So the grid row is start row to end row. So it's going to be, I think you can do some, I'm going to look into this actually before I spend ages writing it and getting it wrong. JSX style, inline styles, normally you don't ever do that, but I think we can get away with it in this case. Style, oh, so we have to actually pass it an object. You know what, I'm okay with that. That makes it easier to handle. Now, because of the weird thing in JSX, we need double brace syntax, one to say we're writing a JavaScript expression and one to say we're starting an object. So our grid row is going to be equal to do template strings start row to end row. And the column we'll tackle in a second because that's about days of the week and stuff. Reload. It's not here, which means hopefully if I scroll down, going, here it is, right at the end of the day. And the question is, if I zoom out a bit, yeah, that's what I expect to see, right? And I'm actually just going to go ahead and set the global font size to something a bit smaller. I will just do it here. I'll just say font size 12 points. If I reset my zoom level, has that done anything at all, font size? Yeah, apparently it is 12 by default. Let's do 10. This is actually really awesome that we've got this far. We can go ahead and commit that, I think. Let's do a git status, git add, git commit. Add event to relevant, or rather we're saying display event at relevant times. On scheduler, push. Okay, I'm happy to consider that one a win. Let's move forward and try and tackle day of the week. That's our day of the week one. Now, we are always saying it's going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? Those 7 days. So I think we can actually do some kind of mapping here, basically, based on the day returned by day.js. So how do I get the actual word of the day? You know what I mean? Day of month, 2 digits. Can I change the red? Yeah, fair enough. I imagine after being compressed by StreamYard and Twitch, it's not super great. What should we do? A nice soft pink? How's that? Is that better? While we're at it, we can also do some stuff. We'll go Melon Squad background color is nice. Let's just change the font family to Arial as well while we're here. So that's a bit nicer as well. So we've done font size. We're doing a font family is going to be Arial. And then our background is apparently, according to Adam, F4C4C4. What is that? There's more red than anything else. Wow, it's basically exactly the same as the one I picked, except slightly softer. If I reload, I could take that. That'll do. That's decent. Good shout. So we've changed that. Hopefully that's easier on the eyes. If it's not, let me know. And I forgot where we got to. Did we finish the commit? Yes. Oh, so we're doing days of the week. Close that one. Close that. Now in day.js, I'm trying to figure out how to get the day as a word. You know what I mean? 2-digit year, 4-digit year. Month, day of month, 2 digits. It's not like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's so hard to get. String. I'm going to have to Google it. Day.js, day of week. It has to be a thing. Dot day. Here's an idea for you. Let's say in here we're going to do const days of week equals, we'll do Monday, Tuesday. Actually, am I overthinking this? Days of week? I don't think we even need to do a mapping here. If it can give us the day of the week as a number from 0 to 6, which is apparently Sunday to Saturday, then we can basically send that straight into the grid column parameter, which is even better. So let's say const. Now, I'm going to be a little bit hacky here and assume that events never span multiple days. Like we never have something that starts at 11 p.m. and finishes at 3 a.m. the next day, because then you would essentially need 2 different rectangles on the page, which is going to be a bit complex. So just for this, let's just use the start date, the start time. We can get the day of the week from that start time day.js object. So const day of week equals start time dot day. Console.log, and if we just do that on day of week, this should give us 3, because we set it to 17, which is a Wednesday, and it goes all the way around to Sunday being 0. Monday's 1, Tuesday's 2, Friday's 5, Saturday's 6, and Sunday's 0, because that's how they're doing it. So I guess the other option here we need to add is grid column. So let's go for, I just need to say here, if the day of week equals 0, I want that to be equal to 7 rather than 0. Let's just do a let here, and then we could say if day of week is 0, then day of week 7. Easy peasy. Again, no need to overcomplicate. So then here we're going to say the grid column is nice and simply day of week / day of week. Load. Fingers crossed. And look at that, showing up on Wednesday. Nice. Now we're really starting to make some progress. Let's add some more styles to it, probably just a border for any .event. We haven't got any event styles at the minute. 1 pixel solid. Let's do blue. And the background, I'm actually going to make completely white. Fair enough. And where's our style sheet? It's here. Event. Border is a 1 pixel solid blue. And white. There we go. Misspelled background again. Reload. Okay, so this is starting to show up. And now, just to really test that this is working before I hook it up to the rest of Google, the Google Calendar API. So starting at 11 p.m., finishing at 11:30. Let's say we start at 12:48, right, just after noon. Reload. We should now see this, yeah, perfect, span a big chunk of hours on our calendar, which is really, really awesome to see. So again, I think this is a good point to commit. So we'll do a git status, git add, git commit. So this one is where we added the calendar, isn't it? The column. So display event in correct day column and add styles. Git push. Okay, so we're making really solid progress. I think our next step is to actually do it based on these events rather than our dummy one. How do we do that? Let's go. Inside our scheduler, we're going to write some funky JSX that says events.map event. Nice bit of arrow notation. And then for each event, we're going to return a event React component with the title equal to, what is it, event.summary. Just seeing that from here. And the start time. And this is where we need to parse it as day.js, right? So we'll go day.js event.start.datetime else event.start.date. Then I presume the end time is the same syntax. I'm not actually sure. Event.start, event.end.datetime else event.end.date. Okay. Let's just leave that one in as well. So if I reload, it's perfect. We got some overlap. Let's move the meeting to, for example, yesterday. Close dev tools. And what we see now is we're actually pulling in, we got an invalid date apparently, because of this. We're now showing the events from my Google Calendar on our own calendar here. So you can see I've got the meeting with boss, I've got virtual COVID party, and then there's the one here that I added manually. So we can delete that one now. But something to still note is that we've got, or rather we don't have, this testing. So just to be clear, Adam, this is a Google Calendar, like an actual proper Google Calendar on my example burner account, right? Just a random one. And I put in some dummy events like a meeting with my boss and a virtual COVID party. And we'll say here, 11 p.m. going shopping for 6.5 hours. We'll put that in. And then be using the Google Calendar API to grab this data and render it on the page, which is really awesome to see. Obviously, you can style this up a bit with some days and stuff and some lines, make it easy to read. Maybe add the days across the top as well would be a good idea. But it's really cool to see this actually pulling through and rendering on the page, right? Now, what you'll notice is that a test is not showing up. And that's a bit of a tricky one. So what we need to do with the test one is essentially change our logic where we are listing our upcoming events to not just do minimum time of new date to string. We actually want the start of the week, right? Now, I wonder if there's a way in Day.js to get that. Let's manipulate maybe start of time. Oh, returns a cloned Day.js object and set it to the start of a unit of time. The first day of this week. This might actually give us exactly what we want. Day.js.start of week. And this is the reason you use date formatting libraries, right? Because they've done all the hard work for you. Day.js.start of. Oh no. Oops, I didn't actually call it. So Day.js will initialize Day.js.start of week wheel. Whoops. Start of week. And then you can see it here, right? Sunday, March 14th. Perfect. Why does everyone say the week starts on a Sunday? It doesn't make any sense at all. So I now need to add one day to this. So I think you could do .add one day. Wouldn't that be great? .add one day. Nice. So that's given us a Day.js object for the start of the week. I need to then format that in ISO string. So how do we do that? So get plus set. Where's the string formatting gone? Display? There we go. As ISO 8601 string to ISO string. Simple. So if we do that, we do .to ISO string. I guess that gives us the exact string we need to pass to Google. I'm pleased with that. That was nice and simple. So rather than time min being from now onwards, we can say from the start of the week onwards. Reload this, and there's our test event. And just to really show again, this is working. If I put something in for the previous week, example, does not show up. So this is just based on the current week. Now, obviously, if you're going to build this out more, you do a ton of stuff where you can navigate backwards and forwards between weeks and all this great stuff, and potentially make out multiple different calls to the Google Calendar API. But for the purpose of this, I'm pretty pleased with this. We've got our 4 events of different lengths coming up. Now, Adam, you asked a great question earlier. You said, what happens when you have an event in the Google Calendar that spans multiple days? That is a really good question. And essentially, you would need to draw 2 separate boxes on the page, right? One that starts, let's say you've got an event that starts at, right, let's say our COVID party goes through until 2 a.m., right? So you see that spanning around, wrapping around. You would need to draw 2 separate divs on the page. I think what's going to happen here is it's going to get a bit funky. Yeah, like this has gone to 2 a.m. over the same day. So our current setup doesn't support that. You would need to figure out a way of basically splitting that up to go up to midnight, draw an event here, and then draw another event here. Potentially keep going, right? Depending on how long that goes for. Just for the sake of making our demo not break, I'm going to knock this back to the 17th, and we'll put it back to, what was it? 10 p.m., something like that. 10 p.m. This is good. I'm pleased with this. I'm going to make sure we do a commit status git add git commit -m. I can't even remember what the last commit was actually. Display event incorrect column. Oh, so this is the commit where we make it start working with Google. Git commit display events on page pulled from Google Calendar. Nice. We'll do a git push on that one. I'm going to do a final cleanup of the code as well, so delete stuff we don't need. We'll leave that for now. Actually, I think this is fine. what we can do, and what you should do as well, if you've been following along, is submit this onto DevPost on the MLH March Challenges DevPost. I need to grab the URL for that one really quickly. It is mlhmarchchallenges.devpost.com. I'm going to put a nice little banner across the bottom for you, which is this one. So let's head over to MLH March challenges.devpost.com. And I definitely did a push, right? Is my code all up to date? Yeah, that's up to date. Brilliant. I'm going to join the hackathon. I need to log in with my DevPost account here. Perfect. I am working solo. Who told me about MLH March challenges? Technically, Major League Hacking via email. I got an email saying, hey, do you want to do some live streams in March? And I said, yes. We'll register for this hackathon. We'll start a project. Select whole squares with taxis. Okay. Imagine if you had trucks as taxis. Wouldn't that be awesome? Like you just get in this massive, massive truck. Project name, class scheduler. Awesome class scheduler that pulls from the Google Calendar API. And I guess the point of it being a class scheduler, right, is you can go through here, the party starting at 9 p.m. Is you would go and add like all your lectures and stuff like that, set them up as repeating events and this kind of thing, and it would pull them all through and render them on your calendar. And because you've got that data now, you can render it however you like. If you've got a weird calendar format that you've always wanted to do and then you can't find an app to do, now is your opportunity to do that now that you've got that data. So let's go save and continue here on DevPost about the project. Inspiration. I've always found it difficult. To know when my lectures are. I decided to write my own interface for accessing the data from Google Calendar. What it does, pulls events this week from my Google Calendar and displays them on a fresh, let's call it a fresh, modern user interface. How we built it. What is it built with? React, Google Calendar, API, CSS, HTML, JavaScript. Any other questions here? Sharing a non-burner email on stream. Yeah, I am, but like the real thing is about I don't want to share my API keys and stuff that could potentially access my actual Google account. Also, the one I give DevPost is kind of a personal burner. It's not quite as burner as the actual burner, but it's not like my main email, if you get me. Do I mean a bus? I presume this is when I was talking about taking a truck as a taxi. I mean, that was not what I was thinking. My thought was like you just go up in the cabin for this, massive truck, and it's awesome. But who's excited for my party? I'm excited for my party. How we built it, challenges we ran into. Date formatting was a problem. We do mark down here, right? Date formatting. Google Cloud platforms, project dashboard being confusing, and forgetting how to write CSS. Accomplishments that we're proud of. Actually pulling data from the Google Calendar API and displaying it correctly on a schedule. What we learned, how to use the Google Calendar API. What's next? The class scheduler. Will I ever come back to this project? That's a secret. Okay, built with, we said Google Calendar and React. I'll do GitHub repo. Where is my GitHub repo? It's this one. Perfect. Copy that. Put that here on DevPost as well. I don't have a video demo. Should we include a screenshot? Why not? I learned a pro tip recently, actually. which is you can. I mean, I kind of already knew it, but this use case was never thought of it before. If you go to the responsive design mode, you can set the dimensions of your web page. So I can actually go here 1920 by 1080, and it will make it like 1920 by 1080. And then because I'm using Firefox, I can go take a screenshot of the full page. And this is now exactly a 1920 by 1080 image, even though my actual screen resolution is 1920 by 1080. That's cool, right? Download it, upload it onto, for best results, use a 3:2 ratio. Oh, man. Okay, second attempt. 1080 times 5 is 1620. You ever seen that as a resolution? Is that really 3:2? Okay. We'll take a screenshot of this again, of the full page, download it, save it, dev post, we'll grab our image, screenshot of application, save and continue. Additional info, which day's challenge? What's today? The 17th of March. Save and continue. Agree to the rules, submit project. Look at that. That is the first time I've submitted a project on DevPost in quite a while. But I'm pleased that we've actually got this working, right? We've got our events coming through here from Google Calendar. They're displaying in a relevant location on our schedule. Obviously, it'd be nice to add some more stuff. But I think we're kind of coming up on time here, We've written a nice thing about our project. I am no longer a maths and computer science student at Durham University. I graduated a few months ago. What questions have we got coming through here now? Will there be anywhere to watch these challenges back? That's actually an excellent question. I don't believe these sessions are recorded, but I know that we do kind of run repeat sessions over and over. So it's quite possible that I will run a class scheduler one again. Oh, there you go. Adam says you can see them on Twitch. So Twitch records them I think it holds them for a while anyway. Also, if you check in the chat earlier, I posted all the links for the tutorials that I used, so you can just follow along with those. And tell you what, let me post the GitHub repository as well. And then if you want to go and look at my code, you can. Full disclaimer, this code is not good, but it works. Any other questions? Where's the party hosted? Man, I wish. My bedroom, because I'm going to bed. Brilliant. That's done. We've done all the stuff we need to do with registering and checking in and stuff. Make sure you submit your demo as well, even if it's nowhere near as complete as mine. Just getting something submitted is absolutely awesome, because it's always good to have things on your DevPost portfolio. Nice. Okay, team. Thank you so much for following along with me. It's been an absolute pleasure to be your host this evening. I'm doing a few more live streams later this month. I can't remember the dates, but if you watch them every day, like it seems some of you do, then I'm sure we'll bump into each other again. Apart from that, I really enjoyed it. Enjoy your evening, your morning, your afternoon, your night, whatever time it is. Have a great day. Catch you later. Bye-bye.